That gives me goosebumps. It's exceptional how such a big impact can be created from a simple idea.
Right.
Before we get into how you got into South Africa, I want to speak just for a moment because we've highlighted, or you've highlighted, what it was like being on the giving side in that time. Was it scary? And I know that's a silly question because obviously it was. But what was happening around you must have been terrifying.
It was, and if the war wasn't enough, Hope4, we're not just Hope4 by name. We combat the issues of poverty, human trafficking, conflict, and natural disaster. I was on the ground in Turkey when the earthquakes happened, and that eclipses anything I've ever seen in Ukraine, even because you had 2 entire cities utterly destroyed. And I was there 6 weeks after the earthquake, and you had everything. You had the sight, the sound, and the smell, and they were still pulling bodies out of the rubble. And so that will stay with me for the rest of my life.
Welcome back to another episode of Good Things with myself, Brent Lindeque, the Good Things guy. I'm excited. It's 2026, and we've got so many good people that we're going to be interviewing on this podcast. It's flippin' incredible to be here. And today, I'm excited because I've got Chris Lomas in studio, the founder and CEO of Hope4. His charity that he's started. He doesn't have a South African accent, so don't be surprised. He's actually British. Chris, it's great to have you. Yeah.
It's great to be here, and I almost feel like I should be apologizing for my accent.
No, don't. It's just I'm excited because you're international and you're doing good things in the country. But I have to give some context here. So Chris and I met, or connected is the right word, on LinkedIn last year. And LinkedIn is such a big talking point for me because it is actually such a powerful platform. For many years, I sort of registered on LinkedIn and I never really used it. And about 2 years ago, I decided to give it more effort, or to put more effort into the way that I was using it. And in the past 2 years, I've connected with the most incredible human beings like you, Chris.
Thank you.
We met last year on LinkedIn, and we decided to do a Zoom to chat about the work that you were doing here in South Africa. And the conversation that we had, so we started the meeting, hello, how are you? All of those sort of things that you do. And within the first 5 minutes, I knew that I wanted you on the poddie. I was like, you have to come in here. I want to be speaking to you where more people can hear about your story. So I think let's take it back. There's many facets to you, the Ukraine war. We can speak about Kilimanjaro. But where did Hope4 actually start?
What an intro. Hope4 is actually my wife's fault.
She's actually here. She's behind the cameras. So Zoe, is it?
It's Zoe, my beautiful wife. I call her my beautiful wife. I'm famous across LinkedIn now for calling her my beautiful wife. My beautiful wife is Romanian. She grew up just across the border from Moldova, which is surrounded on 3 sides by Ukraine. And about 7 years ago, my wife was traveling there. She's a French, Spanish, English, and Romanian teacher, that's all. And she was traveling from the UK, where she was teaching, to Moldova as a translator. And she famously called me up about 7 years ago now and said, Chris, I want us to move to Moldova. And my loving response was, over my dead body. There was no way I wanted to move to Europe's poorest country. But then at the tail end of COVID, something happened that just compelled me to agree, and our lives have changed unrecognizably.
Well, I mean, that was the basis of Hope4, right? So that's where it was all really born, when you were in that new home.
Yeah. So we moved initially to Moldova we thought, to look after a few orphans. We were going to become house parents. We moved into this special house. And but I'm a businessman, I'm an entrepreneur. If we can agree that an entrepreneur isn't necessarily someone who's successful, just someone who never knows when to give up, I'm an entrepreneur. And so whilst we were waiting for the process for residency and to qualify ourselves as effectively foster parents, I got busy. And you mentioned LinkedIn. LinkedIn has been pivotal in everything we've done. And it has changed a lot over the last 4, 5, 6 years, where it's used to be somewhere you look for a job and parked your CV. Now it's this dynamic community. We're force for good. And so we moved into this house. I got busy and we started to raise awareness of the issues of poverty and human trafficking across Moldova. And then the war started. And just to give an idea of proximity, my beautiful wife and I were having breakfast at 9 a.m. I think it was the 24th of February, wasn't it? And our windows started to vibrate. And we looked up at the windows and then the sound of bombing. That's how close we were. And we later realized that a munitions dump had just been targeted across the border from where we live. And we knew, because of all the rhetoric, that war had started, and Hope4 came alive because we expanded our operation to encompass not only the hundreds of thousands of refugees that were crossing the border, but I started to go into Ukraine along the front line delivering aid.
That's a big task to take on. So you Hope4 started as a small idea to give back, to be hopeful, to change the narrative when it comes to poverty and human trafficking. And all of a sudden now you're standing on, I want to say the precipice of a war, but it was already, you were in it. And I guess by that time there's no looking back, right? It's you gotta get
we were
in
all
and
in.
do
We were
what
all
you
in.
gotta do.
And we were in country in Moldova before the big boys parachuted in, UNHCR and people like that. And I remember us walking into, we got these famous red jackets, and we were living in the north of Moldova at the time. And I said to my wife, we've got to get involved. And we put our red jackets on and drove down to the capital and drove to the first refugee center that had been set up, which actually was a disused COVID ward that had been converted from an exhibition center, which is the same happened in the UK. And we marched in. We didn't have any money in the bank because we were kind of raising money for little projects. And my wife and I don't pay ourselves a salary. We haven't in 5 years. And we're literally raising money to make a difference. And we walked in and said, what is it you want? And because this is Europe's poorest country, before the big guys have parachuted in, they needed everything. They said we need washing machines and fridge freezers and microwave ovens and irons and all that sort of stuff. And I said, don't worry, we'll get it for you. And I remember getting back into the car, gripping the steering wheel and go, what have I just done? And funny enough, talking of LinkedIn, we were on our way back home. And I was trying to think, oh my goodness, how are we going to do this? And I got a phone call from a big LinkedIn influencer called Leah Turner, who later came onto our board of directors. And she said, hey, Chris, you don't know me, but I'm just about to change your life. And she said, I'm going to do this LinkedIn masterclass, which we later called LinkedIn Live Aid. And she was just going to help raise a few quid for the response to the war. And I said to her, how much do you think you'll raise? And she said about £6,000. Wow, that's going to be fantastic because we've just committed ourselves. And within a week, she'd raised £90,000. And we became, it's like Hershey's, right? We became like Hershey's biggest customers in Moldova. We walked into a place called Bomba, which was the retail store. And they were like, great, Chris and Zoe's here. Because we just like 10 of those and 3 of those and 4 of those. And, but most importantly, it put us on the map. And we just started to receive so much aid. And just to give it some context, since the war started, we've imported 1.2 billion rands worth of aid to support people across Moldova and Ukraine.
That gives me goosebumps. It's exceptional how such a big impact can be created from a simple idea.
Right.
Before we get into how you got into South Africa, I want to speak just for a moment because we've highlighted, or you've highlighted, what it was like being on the giving side in that time. Was it scary? And I know that's a silly question because obviously it was, but what was happening around you must have been terrifying.
It was, and if the war wasn't enough, Hope4, we're not just Hope4 by name. We combat the issues of poverty, human trafficking, conflict, and natural disaster. I was on the ground in Turkey when the earthquakes happened, and that eclipses anything I've ever seen in Ukraine, even because you had 2 entire cities utterly destroyed. And I was there 6 weeks after the earthquake, and you had everything. You had the sight, the sound, and the smell, and they were still pulling bodies out of the rubble. And so that will stay with me for the rest of my life. But I'll get to the war. But because we were combating human traffickers, because I don't speak any language more than English, my wife was getting calls in Romanian to say, because we were closing traffickers down, and she'd get calls in the middle of the night saying, "You and your husband better leave Moldova, we're going to kill you." And of course, we didn't go anywhere. But it's got really scary when we, I say scary, I'm not afraid. I'm happy to give my life for this. This irritates my wife and my children when they say this, but they know Dad's not going to die of old age. Sooner or later, this is going to catch up with me. And I'm happy, I'm content that, I'd rather leave a legacy that will change lives than cough and splutter my last breath in my bed. But just to give this some context, a few months ago, I was in Ukraine, and one of our last meetings, because we were delivering aid along the front line, was in a city called Kherson, which was formerly occupied, and it's in the Donbass region. And we had all of our military gear on. We're in our humanitarian vehicle, Hope4 written on the sides, and we get to the checkpoint, and they see my British badge, and they say, "Oh, thank you so much." Everyone's really happy that we're there. But the guys, and you can't go in as a tourist, obviously. You can't go to these, it's not tourism. So you need special permission. And we were meeting the military in an underground bunker along the river in the city of Kherson, and just 100 meters away is the Russian forces. And we hit the checkpoint, and they said, "You and your team are going to die." They said, "We're happy you're here, but why are you doing this?" And I said, "We'll stand with you guys." And they said, "Look, Kherson is suffering 2,000 drone attacks a week, over 200 a day. And if you go in with your humanitarian vehicle, they're going to assume you're smuggling weapons to the front line, and they're going to drop drones on you." And it's the first trip that my beautiful wife, I'm looking at her now, said, "I got a bad feeling about this." And so she was home praying, and there's a long drive as you approach Kherson, and devastation on either side just a few months ago. And we're driving down, and all aware that this could be the last trip. And as we approach the city, this cloud descended. And there's one thing you need for a drone attack, and that's line of sight.
Yep.
And all of the attacks stopped. But the entire duration we were there, we got to the bunker, and the military came out, ushered us down, like this. And we had our meeting, and they were like, even they were looking at me, and they were in all their military gear. They were like, "We don't know what's just happened." And we were there to discuss what they needed so we could bring the next shipment in from the UK. And we finished the meeting, got back in the van, drove away, and not a single attack whilst we were there.
So I guess purpose, you're living your purpose.
Yeah.
You're doing it because it's the right thing. And I guess I can only assume that whether someone is religious or believes in the universe, that you're being protected while doing that.
I've got to believe that that's the case, and I actually do. We are people of faith.
Yes.
And it's part of the reason why we do the crazy things we do, because at the back of my t-shirt it says
your middle name is love.
Love is my middle name, and that it's not, but it's true. Everything I do is based on love, and I've reconciled to myself to the fact that I've given my life up to make the lives of others better. Someone once said, if you find what you're willing to die for, then you can start living. And that's really what I'm doing.
That's for the team. That's a clock at moment.
Come on, guys.
I feel so humbled and so honored. I feel like I'm sitting next to a superhero, which is the work that you do is so important.
Well, likewise, my friend.
No, not at all. Not even in the slightest. I have to pull this back because you're in Africa.
Yes.
So how did Hope4, I don't know, find a footprint here? How did you realize that the work that you were doing was so needed in this country as well?
2 reasons. Actually 3 reasons. 9 years ago, when I married my beautiful wife, we honeymooned in Cape Town. And Cape Town's a long way away from the UK. I haven't seen my children in almost a year. My daughter gets married in April, and that's going to be our chance to see them. But we fell in love with the country when we went to Cape Town. And then 2 years ago, I climbed Kilimanjaro, and I fell in love with the continent. And it was always on our radar. And we'd reached a point in Moldova and Ukraine when we had reached our zenith in terms of what we could do. We still have operations there. We have a great warehouse in both Moldova and Ukraine, full distribution, but we know what we're doing there. And so as a non-native speaker, honestly, Brent, being married to someone that can speak 4 languages, my go-to is I speak 4 languages: English, American, Australian, and South African. And I'd done as much as I could. And as an entrepreneur, I'm hungry to do more, because the reality is anyone can fill a warehouse and deliver aid. That is not the solution to poverty and human trafficking. It's not. Yeah. Independent economic sustainability is. If people are independent, then they can take care of themselves. No one wants aid all the time. You know, Moldova has suffered 34 years since its independence from charity. And that seems a crazy thing to say. But the problem is, if you're constantly giving people charity, they become dependent. And economic independence is the only solution. And I couldn't do that in Moldova. So circumstance earlier this year, or earlier last year.
It's a new year.
It's a new year. I keep forgetting that. I haven't done the 2025 bit yet, so I've not signed, unless I've done it on that form now. She's looking. We had an opportunity to make the move.
Yes.
And so we seized it. And the reality is, the issues facing people across South Africa eclipse anything I've seen in Moldova and Ukraine, even taking the war into account. You know, when we go into the settlements now and into the townships, we see poverty on a scale I never have. And Moldova is Europe's poorest country, and there's extreme poverty. But honestly, when I walk into some of the places now in South Africa, it makes Moldova look like Monaco, you know, and we're equipped to do something about that. And so we want to emulate what we've achieved in Moldova, which with such a small team has been phenomenal. So we want to do it here. But whilst we work on our infrastructure, and the entrepreneur in me, desperate to get out, we have started a business here as well. South Africa, and I'm going to be really unpopular, you may not want to wear this, but South Africa is one of the epicenters for the BPO industry, the business process outsourcing, so call centers. People target India, Indonesia, South Africa, but the problem is it's an exploitative industry, because they'll fill these offices with people, pay them 6,000 Rand a month, which is not a living wage, whilst they're buying yachts and sports cars.
Yep.
I take exception to that. And so we're launching Hope4 Business, which is providing those services whilst equipping people to be economically independent. So we pay twice the national average. We enroll everyone on a profit share scheme. Once we get our infrastructure in place, they'll have a clothing allowance and a food allowance for them and their families. And I just want to be the best employer in South Africa. That's only one of the programs, though. There's loads of others I'd love to tell you about.
Well, this is the thing, and I've got this big smile on my face, because where I come from and the good news stories we tell obviously are very far from the other side of South Africa. Mainstream media tells the stories of the hardships. There are great journalists in our country that are covering those things already. But you mentioned that amount that people may be getting paid in whatever industry in South Africa. Over 90% of the South African population live below the dignity line. And that means they don't earn enough to be able to have dignity on a daily basis. By paying people more, for doing something that is a skill. I would imagine that a call center agent needs to be so tough on the outside to be able to handle 100 no's in one day.
Yeah.
It needs a tough skin. You need a tough skin to be able to get through that. But to pay someone according to what they're worth and be able to empower them to live and to go on to, I don't know, do great things. They could upskill themselves in other ways.
Yeah.
That changes the game.
Yeah.
That changes it completely.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Richard Branson once said that if you train people so well that they can leave, but treat them so well they never want to, that's the secret. That's the plan. And I believe that we'll have some of the most loyal and happiest employees in the world because people want to work.
Yeah.
They want to work.
They want that purpose.
Yeah.
I mean, some people might complain and be like, it's the beginning of the year, I need to go back to work or whatever that is. But it gives us a sense of purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
It keeps our minds active.
Yeah, exactly.
It really, and if you find something that you love and something that loves you back, your middle name is Love, so obviously that's already there. That can only make you a better person holistically. Yeah,
exactly. People just want to be empowered, and we want to do that.
You mentioned entrepreneur, and you mentioned other things that you have going on as well that you're planning, besides Hope4 and the charity, which is the meat of what you do. You were on a reality TV show in the UK.
Yeah.
What is it called?
It's called Dragon's Den.
Dragon's Den is what it's called.
Yeah.
And you were there for over 2 hours that you had to, I don't know, pitch what your idea was?
See, it's a TV show, so you only see a small amount. And honestly, it's fascinating. But I was on set and recording for 2 whole hours with the dragons in front of me. And the reality is you can kill your business on that TV show.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you could walk up there and pitch it and they could tear it apart.
100%.
And then anybody that sort of hears your name is going to be like, that's not something I want to be associated with.
Yeah, exactly.
So what were you pitching?
So I got 2 children. They hate this story. My daughter is a paramedic in the UK, Tegan. And my son is Max. He's an investment banker. And when Tegan was toilet training, it's an age-old challenge that every single parent faces. She just took ages. And there are lots of, I could go into all the reasons, I won't bore you. But when my son Max came along, I thought, well, there's got to be something that I can do to encourage him to want to use the bathroom with all of the new distractions that children have nowadays. And so I created what I called Max Balls. And they were an antibacterial ball that lived inside the toilet bowl, big smiley face, ridiculous idea. But it got him out of nappies instantly. Okay. And so I thought, well, if I can commercialize this and sell it. And I did really, really well. You can see the show on YouTube, and it's kind of like my CV on video, right? But they hated the product. I mean, they hated the product. And I understand afterwards, but they loved me.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was the first year a guy called James Kahn was in, and he offered me half the amount that I was looking for. And then there was a guy called Duncan Bannatyne who offered me a job on air. He said, honestly, if you came to me looking for a job, and after the show, I interviewed for chief head of sales and marketing for Bannatyne, but I would have had to move to Scotland, which I didn't want to do. Deborah and Theo.
Yeah.
But Peter Jones, who's still in the den, he just said some incredible things. And in fact, when I disappeared down the stairs without having received investment, he turned to the rest of them and said, if ever you want a demonstration of how to pitch in here, that was it. And the telephone, when it aired, blew up. People saying, come and help us, come and help us. And so I developed a consultancy career, and the poor little product just fizzled out, and I just developed this consultancy career.
Well, I guess it put you on your path, right? And that path has led you from the UK to the or close to the Ukraine, and now into South Africa. What are some of the other business opportunities that you're looking at here?
It's not so much business opportunities, and by the way, I hope I'm allowed to say this, but the BBC have just emailed me. I'm going to go back on. I'm going to go back on with Hope4 Business, and so guys, watch out, because I'm bricking it already. It's going to be a scary process. It's going to make great TV, right? Yeah. Because it's 20 years ago since I was in the den. And so to return, it's just going to be really interesting. But to return with something of such value and impact is just going to be really interesting. But I'm constantly looking at how we can diversify and access new markets and access new donors. And there's a problem now because the Trump administration closed USAID down.
Yep.
Funding has gotten really tough for charities, and because of the cost of living crisis, that pool of funding is diminishing. And I've never applied for a grant because I just don't like that competition. And so you have charities all pitching for the same money, but now Oxfam's pitching for the same money, and UNHCR reported, and I know these guys, I work with them in Moldova, they've reported a 40% reduction in funding. So what's my response? And here's the entrepreneur in me. I have to have a response. I can't just sit there with despair. So we've launched 2 really exciting projects. The first of which is, I think, going to be one of the biggest programs we've ever done, and that's called Sport Against Poverty. And already we have a famous former England rugby player who's going to be one of our first ambassador. We are talking to another former Springboks player. I don't think I'm allowed to say who it is.
I mean, don't. We'll keep it under wraps until we can announce it.
But the whole idea is we want to connect sport with education across South Africa. So how do we do that? With some incredible friends of ours, Kyle and Dina, we are going to launch a sports initiative across South Africa and then beyond. So it starts here, where we will get ambassadors to stand with us to raise awareness. I mean, elite superstars. And then connect sport with education. So we will tell children that we will equip you to play the sport that you're passionate about. And I'm an ex-gymnast. I'm a gymnastics coach. That's why I love sport.
Your CV reads like that's insane.
So, but I understand. I understand the value of sport and what it teaches you, and discipline and different. And Brent, I grew up in poverty. My parents didn't have a lot, and I was bullied every single day at school. So that's on our radar as well. So, but this Sport Against Poverty is going to be really special. So we are going to provide children with everything they need to participate in sport. We're going to link it to their education. So we're going to encourage them to excel in the classroom and on the sports field.
Because ultimately that's doing 2 skills. And I'm sort of pointing out what everybody's watching and listening to anyway. It's assisting with that camaraderie, the sort of all of those great skills that you get from sport, but at the same time, it's equipping our kids with an education that they care for and something that can push them forward in the future, hopefully.
And there's an epidemic in South Africa, across Africa, and that is children dropping out. And 9 out of 10 times it's going to be children from poverty, if not 99 out of 100 times. And so how do you keep children in school? And this, see, I'm a businessman and I want to appeal to the business community, because this isn't just a social issue, it's an economic issue. Because if we're not investing in the skills of children across South Africa, that's going to affect the workforce in a generation. So there's going to be a brain drain. There's going to be a lack of skilled South African people to fulfill the jobs.
To take the country forward.
Exactly.
To move us forward.
So business should be understanding that this isn't the responsibility of a charity owner. This is the responsibility of business. We have to invest. And I know people across South Africa, particularly here in Johannesburg and Pretoria, who care about this deeply. I'm having a meeting with them tomorrow. And the subject is, how do we connect business with education to inspire our young people to stay in school and to, you call it matric, don't you? To stay in school, to graduate, and to become a viable part of society, backed up by businesses who believe in a fair wage, who believe that you have to invest in people. And what better way to do that than sport?
So, Chris, I know I know Hope4 is a charity. That's what it is, and you're building a business around us. But your mind is applying business skills to a charitable sort of organization.
Yeah.
And working in this space, the charities and charitable organizations that are the most successful are the ones that are run like a business. It has to be a business.
Yeah.
And you have to think bigger than just donations or collecting money or whatever that is, whatever that idea is.
Yeah.
So just the work that you're doing is absolutely phenomenal.
Thank you. And the problem is charities see each other as competition.
And they're not.
That has to stop.
They're not.
That has to stop.
I think in any industry, you specifically, it's where you're working in charities. In most industries, people see themselves as competition if it's someone who's doing something similar to you or someone who's in the same sort of space. And the reality is there's enough sun for everybody.
Yeah.
There's enough sun
100%,
for everybody.
100%.
So, yeah.
And then this is what underpins Hope4's success is we're a team of 3 in Moldova and 5 here. And so how do we achieve what we've achieved with such a small headcount? And that is because we utilize the resource of other charities because we're not in competition. So one of the things that we'll be launching soon is an initiative on how to educate charities to be entrepreneurial. Because forgive me, some of them are run by tree huggers, right? They're people who have the biggest hearts in the world, but don't understand business. And so, I had a career in commercializing businesses and their technologies. Why can't I do that in the charity sector? But in addition, I want to mobilize at least 1 million people across the world. So we're launching Power of 4. So obviously we're Hope4. It doesn't quite translate into Rand, I'm afraid, but I came up with this idea recently that I just want to make everyone a superhero. I just want to give impact, make impact accessible to everyone. And in the UK, for example, you'll spend, in fact, I think I've just spent £4 on a cup of coffee here. You spend £4 on a cup of coffee. So it hit me, for the cost of a coffee, you can donate that money, £4, to Hope4. And because my wife and I don't take a salary, we are channeling every penny we raise into impact. We're not like those charities that spend 80% of their income existing. That shocks me, and it should shock everyone. So we've created a model where 100% of what you donate makes a difference. So we've launched the Power of 4, so people can donate £4 a month, £4, $4, €4, 100 Rand, to become a part of a success story. If we measure success by impact, if we measure success by lives changed, the Power of 4 connects people with that opportunity to see in real time, in real life, how their 100 Rand, £4, €4, $4, whatever it is, how that is impacting people across Africa.
Another big smile on my face. We were meant to meet. It was serendipitous because along the journey, along the way, I met with a friend a couple of years ago who had a very similar idea to you. And we just didn't manage to get it off the ground. It's not my space that I work in. I need to tell good news stories. I don't create businesses. But obviously you're doing it and you're doing it for good. And I think that the most important thing that I've got out of this conversation is how passionate you are about what you do and how much of a big impact you're going to create and are busy doing already in other parts of the world. But here in South Africa, Southern Africa, and then more of Africa. And it's really needed. We all know that. So thank you for the good work that you do.
Do you want to hear something crazy?
I'm excited. Tell me.
Okay. This is an invitation. When I climbed Kilimanjaro 2 years ago, I was sick. There were 26 people climbing for Hope4, and I was sick. And we had lots of issues before the climb anyway. In fact, the expedition company emailed everyone that were on their way to Tanzania at the same time to say, we spent all your money. Really sorry, there's no trip. And we had to raise all the money all over again to climb. And we raised, for the charity this time, we raised £60,000, which is a phenomenal amount. But I was really ill. Every single day I wanted to get up. And this is the message, Brent, that I give to, because we get to go into schools now and we're transforming schools already, making a material difference to classrooms that are overcrowded, like 60 kids, 70 kids in a single classroom. There was a girl I met recently who said she wanted to be a doctor, a brilliant 12-year-old. What are the chances when she's sharing that education with 60, 70 other people? But I swore blind that I would never climb again. I made it to the top. And this is the message that we give people. You will never know what the view is like from the top if you give up. And that's the story of Kilimanjaro for me 2 years ago. But when I got down to the bottom, I gave everything away. I took my backpack off and threw it at someone. I took my boots off and gave it away. I swore blind I would never climb Kilimanjaro ever again.
I'm just going on a whim here. Chris, you're about to tell us that you're doing it again.
I'm doing it again. So I'm putting a team of 40 get together this time. We want to raise £100,000, which we will spend across South Africa. So I'm looking for 40 people. We've got about 10 already.
Yep.
Who will join us in October to climb again, to make a massive difference. And how special, Brent, that we will stand on the highest point in Africa knowing that we are going to change this continent. And so to anyone watching, anyone listening, please, if you fancy being part of something that's going to change lives, come and climb with us. I would love it.
I don't want to say this, but I'm gonna. So I climbed Kilimanjaro a couple of years ago, and it was incredibly tough. I'm not a mountaineer. I'm a fit guy, but I'm not a climber. And each day was harder than the next. I hated the food. you get served cucumber soup. Have you ever? I've never heard of cucumber soup. The one night I slept in my tent that I slept in was at this angle.
Yes.
So I was sort of like rolling down
Slipping
the whole
out.
night.
Exactly.
And that final climb was one of the hardest things that I've ever had to do in my entire life. And when I got to the top, there's a false top because you get to that first
stellar point.
Yeah. And you're like, I've made it. And they're like, no, you haven't. You've still got an hour to go.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was on the cusp of giving up. So I said to, we were a team of 6. And so I said to the guides that were with us, because there was a couple of guides that we had with us, and I just said, I'm done. Like, I'm good enough here. This is where I am happy to be. And along the climb, that last sort of 8 hours, you can only stop for a couple of minutes each time, right? Because you need to keep going. So they say to you, you either eat, you wee, or that's it. You take a breath, you eat, or you wee. That's your choice you have, and then we keep moving. So when we got to that stellar point, I said, I'm going to stay here. And my guide said to me, go for a wee, have a bite to eat, have a breather. We'll stay here for longer than we should, and then we decide. And I did. I sat there for, 6 minutes. And he said, and now? And I said, and now I go. And now I go. And I did. And I cried from that point all the way to the top.
Yeah.
But the view from the top is where everything changed. And I've written about this before, but it was a moment in my life where I saw God. It was very, that moment really was a huge change in me. So I didn't want to say this, but now I'm saying it. I'll climb with you.
You are kidding.
I'll climb with you.
You are kidding.
I'll climb with you.
Come on!
I'll climb with you. I'll do it in October. That's it. I'm in.
You're a superstar.
You are.
We're going to have an incredible... Nikita's going to climb as well.
I didn't ever want to do it again, but I'm doing it.
Come on.
Chris, we're running out of time. So I just want to thank you so much for being here today and for telling your story. You are an absolute superhero. And I think the work that you're doing and Hope4 is doing is so important in our country. I cannot wait to follow your journey alongside you. We're now friends. We're not just LinkedIn connections.
We're friends.
Now we're
friends, my friend.
If anybody wants to get hold of you, if they want to climb Kilimanjaro, if they want to find out about Hope4, if they want to apply to your Hope4 business or the different things that you have, please tell me you've got a central point where they can go.
They can head over to our website, which is hope4.org, Hope4 the number 4, and they can email us at help@hope4.org.
It's that easy.
My friend, you have made my day.
I'm climbing Kilimanjaro in October. I hope you're going to come and watch. They'll watch the experience because we'll be tweeting from there live and Facebooking and LinkedIn and all those things. I need to remind you, otherwise my producers will get very angry with me. Please whatever channel you're listening or watching or whatever it is, please do that thing that you need to do. Subscribe, comment, because that does something to the algorithm. Share this video if you enjoyed it. And remember to tune in to all our other interviews if you enjoyed this one. We will be back next week with more good things. Like I say every week. Okay. Love you. Bye.